Welcome, everyone. This is Pine Leaf Needles, and you're listening to LOTRO Players News, where we take a look at the latest news in LOTRO and here at LOTRO Players. And this week we have with us Andang,
Hey, everybody.
Terry Adwin,
Hi, hi.
Maven,
Hey, y'all.
Erithert,
Hello, everybody.
and Carvet.
At your service and your families.
And this week, it looks like LOTRO is in Jeopardy.
At least on Jeopardy.
That's right. And what was the answer?
The answer is that Weird Al lost on Jeopardy.
Baby.
What?
Yeah.
He's brought
What?
shame to his family for generations.
Exactly, yeah.
Doesn't
It's
even
horrible.
get a lousy copy of the home game. No, seriously though.
Seriously, though.
Yeah, based on what I was told, the category was video game slang. And from left field, the answer was, some games have LFG, looking for group. In Lord of the Rings Online, it's LFF, looking for this.
What is fellowship? Duh.
Ding, ding, ding!
A lot of people thought, what is Frodo, which I find hilarious.
Looking for Frodo, which actually
Somebody said that would be Saruman's
response.
response.
Yeah.
Saruman would have answered looking for Frodo.
Looking for Frodo.
Frodo.
And if it was Silmarillion question, it could be looking for Fingolfin or something like that.
Or like looking for...
Or Feanor, or all those
Or
other
Feanor.
elves.
Looking for Feanor.
And one other little thing that's happening is you'll hear in a moment why this is related. That in DDO they just put out their new test server build, and one of the things they have in there is that in their in-game voice chat, I know people usually don't use that if they have another alternative. They are adding the ability to change the volume of individual people.
Ooh.
Cool.
And it's given the impression that they are thinking of rolling that into LOTRO also.
Is it still through GameSpy or whatever that program was?
Well, that I don't know.
Because I'm surprised that they're adding in that option if it's through an external program. That's interesting. And if they have had the ability to do this, I'm surprised they haven't done it sooner then.
Well, maybe we'll find out some more details later on when they get around to bringing
that's
it to
interesting. I
LOTRO.
hadn't heard about that.
But it's a possibility of coming out at some point, assuming it works out for DDO, of course.
Of course.
Oh, yes. Smaller game.
So let's head out for the store sales. And what is on sale this week?
Well, this week's free sample is a random relic pack. Use coupon code found in show notes, one time per account. Also, some really good stuff. 20% off, shared storage, vault upgrades, inventory slots, currency cap, and shared wardrobe. Yay!
On the count of 3. Ooh. Wait, I didn't
So
count.
much good stuff.
It is really good stuff.
So much good stuff. So much good stuff.
I miss saying the coupon code. The Vorkramen and U3. It's fun to say coupon codes. It just is.
All right. Then let's head into our players' news. And let's begin with our community events for February 12th through the 18th. And anything exciting coming on this week?
Stuff.
Stuff.
There's a really, really, really long play, it looks like, called The Council of Elrond.
Well, that was today.
Oh. Well, I would still think it's a really, really, really long play.
Will you be my
Unless it's-
Cluckatine? It's happening tomorrow,
Ooh,
which is fantastic.
Will you be my cluck?
Yeah, will you be my Cluckatine? So it'll be over by the time this podcast launches. But
Well,
for those,
you have to turn into a chicken to do it?
chickens and protectors welcome. It's
Ah.
on Evernight. And it's during a time frame that I can't go, but I would love to go though. That's awesome.
Chicken Run to Minas
Will you be my
Tirith.
Cluckatine?
That's fantastic. At first, I'm looking at this screenshot and I'm going, man, that's awesome that they got a chicken in Minas Tirith. But I'm like, that's a pet chicken. That's not a real chicken runner.
So on Thursday,
Oh, they said it just
on
ended too.
Laurelin server at 2:30 p.m., there is actually Evandim Hillbillies at the Bird and Baby yard party.
This is a thing.
It is a thing.
Hillbillies?
It is a thing. And
That's
basically,
marvelous.
it's a scheduled event where people are free to play music, tell stories, or whatever they want during the breaks, but then they also have an actual main act that goes through as well. So, sounds interesting.
And there's a new feature at the bottom of the article, news sources, where she mentions a source that she gets for Belligear news, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Nice.
So shout outs to the community.
All
There's a
right
lot of
then.
stuff going on.
Now, do we have what's our poll for this week?
Well, apparently this week's poll was apparently very controversial as of a few minutes ago when somebody left a comment. This week's poll.
I wonder who
Yeah,
that
but they were
somebody
in the
was.
minority, so you know.
This week's poll is: would ice fishing be a good addition to the Yule Festival? And a big thanks to Manwin for suggesting this poll. And the answers are: the top answer is yes, with 84%, 127 votes. Next up is no, with 10%, 15 votes.
Yeah.
And other, with 6%, 9
What is
votes.
other? What would
Oth-
other be?
I don't know. I have no idea. But I feel like some people just vote other just because it's there. And
Well, that's typical.
yeah, and I always include other just in case, because if I don't, people usually complain, so it's like a mandatory thing. But anyway, I think there were a few people who thought this was really good, but Maven, you also had another opinion.
All I could think of when I read that question, and here's the thing, I don't normally even comment on stuff like this, right? But I felt so strongly about it that I had to put a comment in. All I could think of when I saw that question was, I think it's Summerfest. Is it Summer Festival? We do all those fishing things.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
just standing at the various water holes around Eriador, fishing and fishing and fishing. I thought, no, don't do it for Winterfest. Ah! Anything else but. So I had a kind of a strong reaction, but I was still in the minority. We could do we could do something else, like we were talking about before the show started, hobby horse races or treasure hunting in snow piles or something. Not ice fishing.
I don't know.
Well-
Somehow hobby horse races just don't feel like Winterfest to me.
I'm okay with
Yeah.
them adding it
Sledding.
as long as they don't require it for a deed or whatever.
Yeah, sledding. Yeah, that would be appropriate for Winterfest.
Oh, you could have a special winter hobby horse that is attached to a sled.
That would be so cool.
And it doesn't actually move on its own. You have to move it yourself.
Like a downhill slalom run between hobbits holding flags.
So it's kind of like a skateboard, but just because you're having to move it gradually with your hobby horse. So it'd be kind of I don't know.
Right, let's go to the LOTRO Academy, episode 137. No,
117.
117. Okay.
Yeah,
You're
this
on the
week's episode of the news is 137.
Okay,
Academy, not as much.
LOTRO Academy 117, review of the Mines of Moria, part 1.
Which I am so excited about. I love your quest pack reviews and all the various parts you have in it, and so I have not listened to this episode yet, but I am looking forward to it. It is in my feed and downloaded and ready to go.
Oh, and then you're excited. You'll also be excited to hear part 2 when that's released.
And 3 and 4 and however long it takes you to get through Moria.
Yeah, it'll take us a while to get through Moria. But yes, that is the first of several parts because we have to break down more into several parts. Otherwise, it would take us about 10 hours to do the whole
Yeah.
thing. So, therefore, Middle Earth video highlights. Let it go with Gollum.
Oh yes.
Yes, Pine Leaf. My good friend Tyler Michael Johnson, a few years back, in 2014, put together a special Let It Go Gollum cover where Gollum sings Let It Go with its own special lyrics, and it is awesome. It is so awesome, and it uses scenes of the film that's really well edited together to the lyrics,
Oh boy.
and the song actually
Scenes that,
makes a ton of sense.
when you say scenes from
Is
the
this
film, you mean Winter or from Lord of the Rings online?
from the actual Peter Jackson films.
Okay.
is this like that I coming like a mountain troll thing? Like
It's
Wrecking
a lot
Ball?
better than that because
Okay.
this this person is an actual actor, and they've done all sorts of voice acting, and in my
Sweet.
opinion, they have the best Gollum impression to the point where I think that they actually did a better job doing Gollum than Andy Serkis did in the Hobbit films. Because I feel like Andy Serkis for part of it felt like he was just kind of doing a parody of himself and wasn't quite what he was like in Lord of the Rings. So, absolutely amazing job by Tyler on this. I really enjoyed it.
Then let's look to the return of Small LOTRO Adventures, episode 39, Knotted Names. Back to bingo.
Small Lotro Adventures is back.
Yes.
Yay!
Yay, Lily Kate. Yay for a snoring Lizzie.
Well,
Great.
I guess that says it all. Yes. And
I
speaking of
love
Lily,
Small Lotro though.
Yeah,
I missed it.
it's such a great series, and I hope that they make many more very soon.
yes, but apparently the trouble of leveling for bingo was such a pain that they're now doing all the episodes with Lily Kate rather than jumping back and forth with Lily
Yeah.
Kate and Missy Rose.
Yeah, that would be a nightmare, especially with the amount of leveling you have to do between each part.
Right. So therefore, they're doing it all with Lily for now on, simply because she's already doesn't have to worry about bingo leveling. So let's go into the Ninny Hammers, also Lily Kate's band, who perform "A Change Is Gonna Come."
And she included lyrics on the article page, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah, really good.
I listened to this earlier when I was putting links in show notes.
Yes, and this is another piece that was done during the let's see, winter stock. Yes.
Cool.
Yes, so now we have also another episode of The Family Line, part 79, Victims of the Fields.
You know, if this series gets any older, pretty soon it's gonna have like forced retirement upon it. 79 already.
Ooh.
But no, this is awesome all the time, and would love to see this series continue for however long it needs to continue. I find it funny because I was like speculating how it was going to end way back at like episode 30. So clearly that didn't pan out. But no, this is great.
And we also have another episode of A Critter's Journey, number 10, Double Ninny Digits. That sounds almost like a Lily Kate thing.
Yeah, Lily Kate left a comment on this by saying that band looks like a bunch of pie thieves. Hold on to your lunch.
Hold to your lunch, Mr. Soon. Yes. And we also have another episode of Poems of the Pine, The Watcher in the Water.
Yay!
I heard a cheer.
That's me.
That was me
That's
too.
me. I'm a big fangirl.
Ah,
I'm totally a Pine Poem fan.
I am too.
Why didn't you
We should all
guys
be.
cheer then, huh?
Yeah, we should all be cheering. Yay!
I don't cheer.
Because I was paying attention to Twitter and didn't realize that we were going to be
Cheering
in
is
Poems
against
of
my
Pine yet.
kingdom.
I cheered, but it was muted. She didn't hear it.
I totally cheered when I saw that the poem was up on Wednesday, though.
all right. The mind's
I
Did we
I
just
was
like
"Yay,
compete for
another
how
Pine Poem!"
we just competed for how much we like wanted to show Pineleaf how much we like this. Like that was
I
like a
know.
competition.
All I
We're
did was
fighting
egg
over
people
who's
on.
like, yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I
It's like
did was egg you guys
how
on.
much backpedaling can we do?
Yeah.
Yeah, come
It's
on.
like Pineleaf is some dictator of a country or something, and we're all like trying to stay alive. I mean, it's
Who's first in the food line this week?
The mines lay empty for many a year till Balin did delve into the dwarven home. But naught was heard from the noble dwarf, so the garrison of iron came in greater force. The entry was blocked till we broke the stones that covered the door to Durin's realm. Yet the watcher did wake when the work was done, thus forcing a flight from the fabled realm. Then we found a weapon from the wars of old, whose legend did leave a legacy of might. This spear will pierce the impregnable flesh of the mighty monster of the Misty's waters. We drove the beast into the depths unknown. The door of Durin is open. Does Balin yet live to bring us hope? Are the mines of Moria now safe?
Yeah, man, it's like awesome, man.
Let's head into the new player question. And Maven, what's the question this week?
On? Oh, there I am. Okay, good. Okay, so I wanted to know, with regard, first of all, about open tapping. So first of all, would you explain open tapping? Because there actually may be some folks listening. I hope there are who don't know what that is, because that means we would have some new players listening. And is there any unwritten etiquette about open tapping on the landscape? Now, I have an example here, but so before you talk, I'll give the example. This is actually kind of what brought it up for me. I've been doing the endgame instances, and they're open instances. So you go in and it's public. So there's all the kinds of other players running around, and all of us have to kill a certain number of mobs and bosses and pick up things and whatnot. And so if I'm going after, say, for example, an elite troll, which we get on the South Ramos instance, and someone comes up while I'm fighting it, I'll wait. I won't like bear down, like he's about ready to go down. I'll wait to make sure that that person gets a shot in, so that when I do finish him off, or when he does go down, that person also gets credit for the troll. I don't know that that's a common practice, so I'm wondering if there's etiquette with regard to open tapping. Okay, I'm done.
so open tapping basically allows you, if you're not in the same group with another player and you attack an enemy, then you both will get credit for the kill with XP and also your own separate loot.
Right. So you basically just have to have a shot in, right? Or you have
Yeah.
to whack him at least once, or shoot him once,
Or you
something.
can toss a heal to the guy who's
Or might-
fighting, or what.
Right.
have you.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. Or might trap
Preferably,
too.
you would be doing more than just one hit in order to make it seem like that you're not just like, stealing the XP off of someone. That being
Yeah,
said,
apparently heel tagging was a
there
thing.
is different levels of like what's acceptable. So for example, if, at least in my book, if there is a boss for like a quest, and let's say you already pulled a couple enemies, but you look over the hill and you see that this other player's already like took the guy and starting to damage him, I'll go over there and start damaging that boss and help the guy kill it, even though I still have mobs on me that I should have probably finished first. And so usually the other player will then come back and aid you with the mobs that you
with
brought
the ones
over.
yeah,
Mhm.
right. That seems fair.
And like a
Sometimes they'll
general
complain. Brought
Sometimes they'll
mobs
just
over.
complain.
Yeah.
a general don't do thing is
If you're like in a spot and it's really obvious that someone's doing the same thing you are, and they
Hmm.
send you a nice tell and they're like, "Hey, you want to group up just so we're both getting credit for all of the things?" It's really nice to do that.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
that's a good thing to do. But
Yeah.
if you've got this has happened to me comparatively often, where like I'm killing something and someone will come up to it, hit it once, and run off,
Yeah.
and I'm
And that's
like,
frustrating,
"Thanks
especially
for
Yeah.
if
the
it
help,
has a
dude."
lot of morale.
Huh?
It's
Especially if it has a
frustrating,
lot of
especially if
morale.
it has a lot of morale
Yeah,
left.
yeah. Like if it's a long fight, and I'm like, "All
Hmm.
right, let's do this." Like some of the war bands around Minas Tirith are like
Oh yeah.
soloable, but they take a little bit of time, a couple minute fight, and somebody just comes up, poink, and then runs off. I'm like, "Thanks,
Yeah, that's
And
helped you too." Yeah.
May karma visit you. May karma
sometimes
get
it.
you back.
Yeah, even worse is if somehow someone brings in someone, hits something once, drags him over to you, and somehow arrange for that
Dumps
creature
aggro.
to go onto
Yeah.
you.
yeah, which
Happens
does
happens as
happen.
a guardian.
Oh yeah.
Happens as a guardian.
As
I
they
did a
come run
bad
up to
thing
you and then they
last
do a mini
week.
flop.
I have a confession to make, and this is the place to do it. I did a bad thing last week. Inadvertently, I didn't realize I was doing a bad thing until I got a really nasty tell. I was in I was in the cisterns. I was in the cisterns instance, and in the cisterns instance, you have to go kill all the not kill. You have to go talk, quote unquote, to these withered tree rebel dudes, and they all have gold rings over their heads, and they respawn really slowly, and so if somebody gets one, then don't even bother to wait around because it's not going to respawn anytime soon. And I was running around there, and I hadn't seen any other players, so I was kind of running around on my own. I figured out it must be an off time of day and stuff, so I was kind of like experimenting. And so I went into this one room, and so I actually pulled two gold ring guys at one time to see if I could do it. And of course there were other wither tree guys I had to fight too, so I ended up like fighting 4 or 5 mobs at one time. But I had pulled two gold ring guys instead of just one at the same time. And a little bit later, I looked down at my message, and somebody writes, "You are a selfish," and I don't know what, because it was all the bleeped out things, and I was like, "Oops," and it was too late. I sent an apology, but they had left the game by that time. I felt so
Oh
bad.
man.
So
Uh,
yeah, don't do that either.
Brannick in the chat says, "Oh, who cares? You were going to kill it anyway, so what if they get some XP?" Well, if you're like, let's say, it's almost at the end of the fight and they tap it and, kill it with you, I'm fine with that. What I don't like is when, let's say you're killing like this big boss and they come over, tap it, and then won't help you damage it the rest of the way down. And so you
Yeah.
Yeah,
think you
that you
have a
could have
player
used to
coming to
kill
help.
it, but they don't even stick around for it.
And so you think you have
It's
a player coming to help you, and you get all excited. You're like, "Oh, cool! I have this other class that's going to be helping me. That's awesome." And then they'll just walk off, and you're left there to keep fighting it. And sometimes you'll even possibly overextend what you're able to do because you expected that player to still be around.
Yeah, I know that if
Yeah.
I'm soloing something and then someone comes in, does something weird, then leaves, then there's a higher chance that I'm going to get killed than if I were tried to solo it myself because they disrupt the mobs like a hornet's nest and things all go
Hmm.
wrong.
it in my case, it doesn't really affect me that much because I'm like, oh, okay, you brought more people, cool. Things like as a guardian, more mobs actually helps you kill things faster because of the bleed spreading back and forth between them, like to a point, obviously. But like for most things, it's like, oh, it's not that it's like maddeningly disruptive to my
Yeah.
play or it makes me rage quit like or send rude tells to people. It's just it's one of those things where it's like, well, that's rude,
Oh, that's good. At least
you
then that
know.
way I know it wasn't you that sent me that tell.
No, it wasn't. No,
Or maybe he's trying to cover his tracks.
no, I would have been like, hang on, I'll bring you more. That's what I
Yeah, and I actually don't mind it too much, but I know some people this just infuriates them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just speaking from a general standpoint of the unwritten etiquette, like etiquette of like you fold your napkin after you finish eating. So what? It's one of those things like so what? It doesn't matter, but it's etiquette, being polite in game. to
Maybe
it's not really
maybe it's a
polite to
golden
run
rule
up,
kind
thwack
of
it
thing,
once, and
right?
run off.
Yeah, maybe it's a
general.
golden rule kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, what would you want somebody to do, right? If they encountered you in game. I mean, what would you want someone to do if you were the one fighting the mob and they came up, right? So
Yeah.
like golden rule. Yeah.
In the Moors, it's slightly different because, let's say if you're standing at the entrance of your home base, whether it's GV or Glenragg or GV or Glenragg, GV or Gramsfoot, and you're heel tagging people as they go out, people get annoyed at that because that actually lowers the infamy and stuff that they get from killing somebody because you helped them out, even though it was 5 minutes before sometimes. So, in some cases, it's considered highly rude.
Yeah, that's actually been tagged as farming, I thought, by some post
Yeah.
somewhere.
Some
You,
people.
you sh-
I mean, some
you sh-
people consider
should-
anything farming.
You
So,
should not do that, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, it's just
but again, courtesy, etiquette.
And Brannick suggests that it keeps people from stealing their XP. Yeah, absolutely. Open tapping is the way better solution
Oh,
of
yes.
compared
What
to
we
what it
had
used
Oh
to be.
yeah,
past,
for
yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, that's, I can imagine, I mean, how it used to be. Geez, that must have, I mean, I can't imagine.
Well,
Yeah,
just what
especially
you
if
can
you
imagine-
were killing like several enemies and this person keeps continually stealing your XP in the old system, it was very frustrating.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine.
And a lot of times, most players didn't even realize that they were doing that. And it would also steal the loot table too, because
But
there was
anyways,
only.
I think did we
Yes.
actually ever define
Oh, really?
open tapping?
we did.
I
Yeah.
don't think.
Okay.
And Dang defined it.
Yeah, I
Cool.
did.
Dang
Oh,
did.
yeah, he did at
Right.
the very beginning. I don't remember.
Just the idea that whenever somebody's fighting something, anybody can come in, join in the fray, and get a share of the XP. Actually, not a share of the XP. You
Get full
get
XP.
whatever XP you would, plus whatever loot you would get
Yep.
from that critter. And if you fight the mob directly, or if you indirectly fight the mob by healing the player who's fighting the mob, it all counts as the same pool of rewards.
I mean, there is a tutorial box that pops up the first time you
Yeah.
do that, but I mean, it's like way back.
Right.
I was like
Wait,
level 2. I don't
Yeah.
remember. I just clicked
Sounds like you
ignore.
don't remember.
Don't show me this noob tip again. How dare
I know,
you?
really. It's like I don't read them. What? I don't care. Close. I'm
Yeah.
in the middle of something.
there
They
is
killed them all
a
there.
yeah, there is a situation concerning that. Now, this isn't relevant to players, but has to do with guards that are stationed all over the place. That if a guard in the game participates in the battle, they turn it gray, remove all your XP, and you don't get any loot.
Which is the way it was
So
before.
don't
Yeah.
go
Oh,
near the
really?
guards unless your
Yeah.
intending is to shake them off and get rid of them. Because if you want the XP,
talking about-
stay away.
Basically, any NPC that does
Yeah.
it.
Any
Well, there
NPC.
are some exceptions those to the NPC, but if the NPC is a guard, they definitely cancel
Oh,
out
okay.
it. If
Yeah.
it's one that you're protecting or something like that, then they're treated as if they're a member of your
I get
fellowship.
it. So that keeps people from like pulling mobs over to NPC.
Right. The idea is to keep
Exactly,
them from
yeah.
pulling it over to
Like
them.
like
Yeah,
a
yeah.
notorious crowd would be the Rangers and Evan Dim. In Illuminous, you get too close to those old boys and they start twipping their arrows at that troll you've been fighting for a minute, and they're like, "Oh, totally stole your XP, bro." And you're like, "Man, I still got 9 more of those things."
And this is a bit of a tangent, but since we're on this, I really miss all the city guards in later areas of the game. I am really annoyed when there's a mounted warg that comes halfway into like
Ministerial.
Pelargir?
Minas Tirith or Edoras, and it's
Yeah.
like, what are you doing here?
I was like, "Hey, just stop by."
Yeah, one just did that last night, and I tried to kill him, and it wouldn't let me kill him.
And it really
like,
takes me out of the game because it's like nobody here is helping me kill this guy.
Yes. This is a city under siege, trying to keep the enemy out, and they're not.
Oh man,
They got
it's
more reason than
brilliant.
anyone else to kill them.
It's
true,
brilliant
like,
when you can.
You guys,
Yeah.
you left the door open. They don't need Grand anymore.
And nobody reacts.
Yeah,
Actually,
yeah.
when the mounted warg guy came through last night in Minas Tirith, some of the NPCs reacted, but then he went up the steps and then they didn't follow him. I did, but then I couldn't kill him. I couldn't hit him. I was like, I'm going to take this guy down. They wouldn't let me do it.
Yeah, it's always interesting when you pull a mob into like a crowd of NPCs who are not programmed to do anything about it.
Yeah.
I have screenshots of Carvette fighting wargs in the middle of Prince Theodred's parade as they're going to attack Isengard. I'm standing in the middle of like 50 mounted Rohirric warriors beating down this warg, and they're all like, "You got that, dwarf? Okay, we're cool."
That's
I'm
awesome.
just like, what?
Well, you're right, because it was funny. I mean, here we are in Minas Tirith, first level. You got all these guys like fighting. They're like training, they're like sparring and practicing, and rah rah rah.
Yeah,
Here comes
when
this
those
orc
orcs
dude.
come in, we're
They
gonna kill
completely
them.
don't pay attention
Yeah.
to him.
It totally
Oh,
takes
God.
me out of the game.
Yeah.
Alright, let's head into our week in Lotro. And Terry Adden, what were you up to?
Well, I ran the Rescue and Nurse Gashu skirmish on stream twice on Sunday. I did it on my stream with Arkenstone Terry Adwin, who's just a little bit past it now. She's actually down into Inedwythe, which is... no, she's in Eregion with the Rangers. She gets to go do... Tomorrow I will be doing... attempting to get the Thorough title again on yet another character. And then I did it a short time afterward with the Carves on their stream with my burglar because they were having some difficulty with the fellowship maneuvers. And, burglars can get fellowship maneuvers on purpose. So that's always fun. And then I leveled the bear to 32. So last week she was 24. This week she's up to 32. She's still doing quests above her level. Went through Oak Barton, North Cotton Farm. That was a lot of fun. And finally, my big highlight for ever, finally completed Fornos Shadow Wing with the Academy field trip. So Arkansas is the first character to ever finish Shadow Wing.
Third time's the
3
charm.
weeks.
Ever.
Third time's the charm.
It took us 3 weeks to do it, and we had to bring a level 100 Brannick with us. But let me tell you,
We finally broke down.
We did it.
Yeah, Pineleaf was willing to break his own rule there.
Pineleaf wasn't willing to. If he was going to be doing this again, he said he was going to have to bring his higher level character.
He actually was prepping to, if we wiped at that boss, he was gonna... He was prepping to bring his level 100.
That's fantastic.
Well, actually, I couldn't bring my level 100.
Because he hadn't
completed the rest of it.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And
Yeah,
the chat
yeah.
freaking out that I have a bear.
Well, I mean, to add to the deal with Sarissa, the thief, the burglar, helping out with the carves, it wasn't so much that we needed help with the fellowship maneuvers. We just needed to do the right one. Because apparently at the end, Goladier needs either a green or a blue.
Right.
And Mrs. Carve is all about red. So, or yellow. So she wasn't paying attention, and we completely splatted Goladier the first time. So I was like, oh, he's gonna die. We can't stop this, can we? He's dead. Okay.
Oh boy.
But I think that's the first or the second time I've ever done that one in a non-solo. And so I forgot about all the fellowship maneuvers you have to do for those stupid volcano critter things.
I just imagine you prepping your wife Carve and being like, as of right now, Goladier is a volcano. He's not an NPC. Don't damage him.
Well, I was like, okay, we're doing this thing, we're fighting, yada yada yada. Oh, we have to do a fellowship maneuver on Goladier. Okay, what? We did red. Oh, snap!
Yes.
It was kind of like, oh, we're dosed.
Well, Goladier's toast.
Well, we were too.
Oh yeah, poor Goladier. He gets killed so many times in that skirmish.
So Maven, what were you up to this week?
Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, I had so much fun on one of my runs on the North Ramus endgame instance. I ran into another Yellow Line hunter, and we did Trapper all the way through the instance, and it was a blast. He was dressed in his ranger, his ranger ninja outfit, so I changed into my ranger ninja outfit also. Mine is red. He was gray. and we ran it, and it was so great. He'd throw the one trap, I'd throw the one trap, he'd throw his decoy, and the mobs would go to his decoy. I'd throw my decoy, and when they finished with his decoy, they'd run to my decoy. And of course, most of them be dead by that time. And I don't know, yeah, we just blazed through it. It was really fun. I wrote him afterwards. I said that was a lot of fun. He goes, yeah, it was surprisingly effective. To have two yellow line hunters running it.
yeah.
So that was
Awesome.
great. That was awesome. So let's see. Oh, and Glordriel is now a Gondorian historian. I was gonna try and come up with a song, like a
Gondorian historian.
yeah,
It sounds like
Gilbert and Sullivan, something. She's a Gondorian historian. I'm a Gondorian, or I'm Henry VIII. I couldn't come up with something. And then in the last few days of Winterfest, I got my Warden and Cappy both past 60. Actually, got the Warden to 61. Now I need to backtrack them to pick up their class quests and all that stuff that they didn't do because they were leveling up during Winterfest, and they're both now Feast Beasts, which is nice. So that was my week. There were other things that went on too, but those are the highlights. How about Aerithert? How about you?
I haven't. My week in Lotro has yet to happen. Actually, I'm excited because there's a kin party tonight, and after the podcast, I will be attending said kin party. Becca
Cool.
and myself are going to be. I got a message asking if can we make a fuss over you because you got engaged. I'm like, sure. So it's sort of like I haven't had a chance to go to a kin party in a long time, so I'm very excited to attend
That's
said
cool.
kin party. But yeah, the Becca and I have run our hunters yellow line, and it's a lot of fun. You can actually
It's great.
blast a lot of things because if you go like the one of the traps that heals, and
Oh
both
yeah, the
hunters,
piercing trap. Yeah.
yeah, both hunters can, yeah, piercing trap, and if you both run endurance line, you can last a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
It is really impressive, actually. But
One
yeah,
of the
it's
traps
trap
heals?
Say again?
Yeah, piercing trap heals. Yeah, it's awesome.
Oh, okay. I guess I never thought of that, but I don't use piercing trap as much as I use the rest of them, so I didn't
I
realize
use it a heck of a lot
heals.
more now than I used to once I
Yeah.
figured out it heals.
Yeah, it
It
basically every time something's damaged that the piercing trap hit, it gives you a small heal. So you
Yeah.
can stack your bleeds on it, and you'll get like a nice steady trickle of heals.
It's nice. Yeah.
I just got
Okay.
this
Like-
picture of
Almost like
like
having a healer with me.
I got a picture of this hunter that like they basically have so inaccurate traps that every time one of them works, they just get so excited and they're like, "Yes, it actually worked this time," and then that gives them a heal to their morale.
We should do that. We should do a parody of that or something.
And even like the trait that gets you, it's one of the ones down the side where when you evade, you get a free trap in front of you.
Yeah.
It can happen every
That's
30
I call
seconds.
that. I call
Random
that.
extra traps everywhere. It's
I tell
amazing.
Terry. I said, "Oh, they scared the trap out of me."
Nice.
But that's especially nice in the instances because I don't kill every single orc. I go running by them, so I'll be running by them, and all of a sudden a trap falls behind me as I'm running. It's like cool. That'll get the orc.
Teach you to follow me so close now, Bucky. Tailgate me, pal.
So
Anyway.
Carvette, what was your week like?
Oh man, it was so much fun. This week I was able to save up enough TP on my free-to-play account that I was able to buy Agmar. That was fantastic.
Awesome.
It was on sale, so I was like, yeah, finally I had three TP left. And I was like, awesome, now I can get to 50. And then the very next week, which is this week, the currency cap went on sale. And I was like, man, I need that too.
You're just living the high life. You should get a lottery ticket.
Well, see, the thing is, I've got like 200 TP more to go to get the stinking currency cap, which is why I'm deciding. Okay, so I know Pay now has a friend named Thrifty Schmo, and I'm debating on whether I want to roll another tune on the same account but on a different server and call him I know Pay either. But we'll figure that out. It's just because it's on sale, and I'm like, dude, that would be great to have because it's account wide. Another thing that was really fun that happened is I got a temporary war steed at level 16 on Saturday morning when I was on the same hunter.
What?
Yeah. So I'm riding and I go in to fight bad guys and the game does this thing and all of a sudden I realize I'm not riding but I am riding. So the game had glitched to the point where when I got off my mount, the camera would do that thing where it shifts because you like change your head height when you get off the horse, but the horse wouldn't go away. And I'm like, what the heck? So then I start focus firing and shooting the boars that I was hunting at the time, and they started losing morale. And I'm like, what the heck? So it got to the point where I was what looked like sitting on a horse, staring down boars, and they were dying because I was an intensely focused hobbit. So it was like I was fighting on a war steed, but not really. I'm gonna highlight that and put it on my Twitch channel. But I was like,
See,
what the heck is this?
I figured it would look like, you having, how we always talk about the bear with the arm to like fire the arrow. I figured you'd have like a horse with the arm firing the bow and arrow at the enemies
No,
because
it was like I was sitting there going, "You will die, boar," and then its morale would go down, and I'm like, "It's over for you." And then the morale would go down again, and they would die and do its little poor death spiral. It was crazy. I was like, "What the heck?" I ended up having to log and completely reboot LOTRO to fix it, but it was weird.
the
And
force
then
is strong with this one.
I'm just force choking boars with my hobbit. They were being completely freaked out by my horribly clashing outfit. I don't know. And one of the other really 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 fun things that we did this week was I took a dwarven honeymoon to Athelion. Mrs. Carve and I did a stream where we were role playing as a dwarven couple who were newly married, and thanks to a Twitter poll, the Beard Kissers are now their names, and they were not impressed with the accommodations. Apparently, they booked through a friend, and the lush tropical resort of Ed Hellion is now nothing more than a smoking ruin. And so there was some significant complaints that were lodged. The new management at Thorns Hall was accommodating, but they had to kick out some serious undead infestations. So the Beard Kissers eventually decided that they were going to try this Bingo Boffin walking tours thing. So we'll see how that goes as that particular series continues. Mrs. Carver and I have decided that's kind of going to be our weekly stream, which will probably Thursday, but we're going to start making that a thing. So it was a lot of
It
fun.
was the funniest thing that I have seen all week. It was I laughed so hard.
I'm really looking forward to when you get to the Moria Tunnel of Love, how that's gonna play out.
I have
Yeah, really.
no idea how it's all going to work out, but I know
Being
that we've
dwarves, though, they'll love Moria.
Well,
Oh,
yeah, it's like,
we've
the
we've
Tunnel of
already
Love for
talked
them.
about how much dwarven engineering is fantastic in Moria. It's a little dark though. It's not good for raising children, but they really did some good work there.
Like, you don't even
So
have to change anything. It's already set up to be a
no, it's
Dwarven Tunnel of Love.
it's
That's what they look like.
already dwarven. But yeah, so the Beard Kissers will be back, and we'll see what kind of adventures these young honeymooners get into. So after that, Endang, how was your week?
Yes, well, mine was not as fantastic or fabulous as you guys. I was actually a little bit disappointed this week because
Aww.
Bingo Boffin went through Mirkwood obnoxiously quickly. He's
I
already
haven't
halfway
heard
through the
about it.
zone.
I haven't done it yet.
And mild spoiler alert for Aerithert.
La 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 la.
It in Mirkwood, basically Bingo Boffin talks about Mirkwood a little bit, but not how I would expect him to, and so it felt completely character breaking for him. He didn't feel like Bingo Boffin, and the more I thought about it, really since his memory has like gone and come back, he hasn't felt like himself.
Oh, what a shock.
And so I don't think that's intentional, but it just feels like that they're rushing through these areas just to get to wherever we're going. And so I don't know. I wasn't ever since he came back with his new memory. I have not liked Bingo Boffin as much. Um,
I
and
thought you liked last week's.
the Lothlorien one was pretty good, but I don't know. I'm ready to have something interesting happen again.
I have a feeling that's going to be a couple of weeks away.
Yeah, I do as well, sadly. And so in the meantime, I'm having to do tons of Bingo Boffin leveling, which was no exception this week. I did 2 Bingo Boffin leveling streams, and over the course of 5 hours, gained 2 levels.
I'm laughing with you. No, I'm laughing at you.
I'm laughing with you.
I'm not laughing at you, in other words. I'm laughing in
Thanks,
empathy.
I guess. Finally, how was your week?
All right, I'll begin with my Arkenstone Hunter, and this time around, I remembered a little thing that Terry Adwin had told me earlier that I hadn't thought of, and that was that the search skill of the hunters is able to detect stealthy characters.
Yep.
So therefore, while my hunter was going through Mirkwood in that section where you're supposed to go after those goblin spies that are,
Hmm.
I decided, all right, I will use my hunter skill to search for the goblin spies based on Terry's advice. And I looked at it, it's incredible how many of those goblin spies there are in the area when you actually search for them that way because they're so difficult to find. Actually, now I think of it, if you're really desperate and you're not a hunter, you do have those Drownholt compasses that you get earlier.
That's
Yep.
right. That's true.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about the Drownholt compasses, but I guess they would work equally well for any character class. Maybe that's why they give them to you. But the but yes, I was able to get through that very quickly as I just look at it. All right, ping. Oh, there's one. Oh, there's one. Oh, there's one. And it's detecting a dozen of them in range at a time. And I always thought that there were only a small number of them. Nope, this place is riddled with them.
Those sneaky, stealthy goblins.
The problem
Yeah,
is they have such a small aggro range, so you have to be like right up next to them in order to
in order to detect them, yeah.
detect them. Yeah.
That's probably why you don't run into them. You just run past them and not even know they're there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Of course, there's
Actually,
goblin spies. They're kind of
yeah.
lame.
Actually, half the time when I do get them, I'm running past them, and then suddenly I get the message of saying, "Oh, I detected something." I go, "Stop!" Turn about, run back a little while. Okay, now where is that guy? Where is that guy? Where is that guy? See if I can find him.
Yeah.
All right. And also, while running through the Mirkwood expedition, since I've done that quite a bit recently due to being a buff and I'm not too sure which character it was, but I actually ran the Daring Rescue. And this is a quest that if I've done it before, I've only done it once before and long, long time ago. It's super rare that I ever do that quest. In fact, it's super rare that I even unlock that quest. I had completely forgotten about it.
I do
And
that one all the time.
Which one is that? Is that the one where you have to like fight your way to the top of the hill and get the
yeah,
guy out of the compound?
Yeah.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Because I usually, but it's been a
And in
long
order
time
to
since I've done
unlock
the
it, you have to rescue
prerequisites.
all of the other elves.
Ah, yes, that one. Okay.
Yeah. So it's been a while since I've done it, but yeah, I found this week was the first time where I actually got around to doing that. And then finally, the real highlight of the week was that I haven't done too many skirmish raids recently. Usually, most of my skirmishes have been small fellowships, fellowship or solo. And the skirmish raid group that I used to be in, which I had finally rejoined last week, they were actually, instead of the last time I was doing when they were doing always tier ones, now they're doing tier three. So I actually did last week my first ever tier three skirmish raid.
Yeah.
Well, I had a highlight of my week for Pine Leaf was he cameoed on Grifflet's stream on Friday. Which was pretty cool.
That was cool.
Oh yeah, the infamous Grifflet cameo. Yes.
I'm like, Pine
Yeah, it's the
Trap.
infamous.
Pine Trap. I know Pine Trap.
Hi, Pine Trap. Yeah.
I
it's
find
like,
you.
I have a
Hold
question
on
for
there.
you when I come back from fighting with Legolas.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll be right back. Just kind of wait still. I got this other thing to do with the elf guy, the elf prince, but yeah, I'll be back with you.
The
All
funniest
right.
part on that was I had said to Corey, he needs to level up because he's at that, between the troll shots and the Misties, where it levels up really quickly in the epic, and he's only level 39, and like, you start off in the Misties, I think 41, something like that. So I said to him, how about if you do, let's get Pine Leaf. Pine Leaf's available. Why don't you skirmish with him, after you do the end of the, the book in the troll shots. He's like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. And then Friday morning he goes, but wait, I don't have a soldier. And I'm like, but wait, have you done the tutorial? And he's like, no, I haven't. I was like, okay, well that's a problem. And so then finally I said, well, have him do it in the stream because it's the old Bree and there's architecture. So that was it. And then Corey says to me, but I'm really worried, because I'm afraid if I go in and do a skirmish, he says, I won't talk, I'll be busy fighting. Are you kidding me? That was one of the funniest things. Him going into that tutorial I laughed the whole way through it. It was hilarious. So, don't listen to him. But anyway, so yeah, Pine Leaf escorted him to the skirmish camp and got him all set up. That was cool.
Okay.
Pine Trap, actually. Pine Trap.
Yes. All right, now let's head into the moot of the week, where we are going to ask, what are the pros and cons of the Beacons of Gondor? So let us begin with the books. Anyone have any things that they really liked about the book representation of the beacons?
Crickets.
They exist.
I don't even remember
I would
anything.
say that I liked it. All the times that I've read, I'm just wondering, maybe you guys can recall it better than me. All the times that I've read the books, I just always picked, maybe I just wasn't paying attention or just didn't interest me that much. I always pictured them as like big bonfires, like a big, teepee of wood at the top of a hill that they would light up. Am I getting that? Is that how it's described, or did I just make that up because I wasn't that interested?
Well, he sees them as they're lighting up from a huge distance, so you don't get too much of a description of them.
Yeah, I think LOTRO went a little crazy with their depiction of the beacons.
Honestly, the movies, that one scene where the fire is leaping from mountaintop to mountaintop is the coolest thing ever.
And the music comes sweeping in, so when you look back at the
that's
books,
the next section.
After that,
Let's take care of the books now.
Do the book first, and then we'll come to the cool stuff.
Well, I think you have to cover.
I was leading into it.
We're out of control.
Yeah, I
finally.
think, like you said, Arthur, I think you do have to talk about the films first because the books by themselves are, you don't really remember the lighting of the beacons. After watching the film version, it's, so amazing that it makes the books look like a con almost of the portrayal of the lighting of the beacons.
So you're giving books a con then because it is so. Yeah, that's them.
It's just not memorable. That doesn't mean it needs to be memorable, but once you watch how epic it could have been in the books, I think that it doesn't make a strong con, but it just is a little bit of lost potential, I think.
The only thing that they do with the beacons is that Gandalf sees them, and it means that he wants to go faster to get to Minas Tirith sooner. So what can you do to make it epic in that case?
I know. I know, Pine Leaf. I don't know.
Well, there's also the books. The beacons aren't necessarily to summon Rohan, right? The beacons are more of an intra-Gondor communications rig where they're calling different people in Gondor to gather. But it's the way that the Rohirrim were supposedly supposed to be summoned was a messenger carrying an arrow who went a completely different way, and it had nothing to do with the beacons at all, if I remember correctly.
I don't know if it's complete. I know that in LOTRO they tried to integrate that into it, but not too much. But yeah, the question is, the person carrying the red arrow, is he coming out of Minas Tirith, or is he coming at the end of a beacon network? Because you got to remember, Gandalf does see a beacon where he is at, which means that he's already crossed into the outer fiefs at that time, or they're.
Well, I think that depends on if the messenger, because the messenger would have had to be sent by Denethor, so it depends on how integrated their messaging system is on where the arrow guy would have come from.
Well, he might have come in from the outermost fief, perhaps, and that maybe when the beacons turn on to that particular section of Gondor, there's standing orders that they send a rider with the red arrow at that point.
It might be. I don't know. Who knows?
Maybe, but that's pretty specific directions to give to.
Well, I mean, maybe we're missing out here. Maybe there's a central Gondorian social media network called Torchy, where they send little blips, little blips of code through this beacon system that, maybe if every third or fourth beacon is missed, it means something different, and they're limited to maybe 2 or 3 characters as opposed to something bigger.
Yeah, instead of Twitter, it's called Torture because they only can do 2 or 3.
Yeah, the Torchy network.
Yeah.
Right. Let's head into the films then. But it sounds like you've already described the films and the epic lighting that you have in that scene. Well, anyone have any other pros on the movie?
Well, I mean, when you see the movie, you see this like incredible helicopter shots of these scenic
Mm-hmm.
mountains, and there's these like remote peaks where there's this pre-established beacon where you know there's some poor schmo
Yeah.
who's sitting in this little cabin who's been up there for weeks on watch, just waiting for that one moment. And then all of a sudden he whips out his Zippo and goes, "Crap, it's not working." And you're like, "You had one job. One job." You know?
The only thing is
Yeah.
that I think it was pretty. I'm pretty sure those were Fell Beast Airlines shots.
Yeah, you know, something.
Helicopter
I mean,
shots.
just the idea that you get these sweeping vistas, and it's really cool how the flame leaps from place to place. But I was looking at that going, now, is there some kind of really cool wizard thing going on where the fire is bouncing from peak to peak, or is it just that they've got some guy with a
No,
torch
if
who
you look
lives on the
closely, you
side of
can
the
see
mountain?
that there's
There's
the people are
torchbearers
lighting
on
them.
each
Yeah.
one. Okay, but I mean, just what a crap job, man! Just like,
Yeah, and I don't
hope
think
you got some
I've
magazines.
actually looked really closely because I had that same like idea carve, and
Yeah.
I don't think they have any type of living structure, at least not apparent in the film. And so that makes the job even worse because you're
Well, I
stuck on
mean,
like the top of this mountain with no food and no place to live really that's easily available. And yeah, it would be a horrible job being a
yeah.
Gondorian soldier up there.
I want to say that like one of them, they kind of had a shot where there was a guy in a hut who was like waving a torch at the next guy, but maybe I'm thinking of a different movie or something. But the idea that there's this network of torches that bounces from mountaintop to mountaintop because somebody sees it and lights the next thing, it's really cool. And of course, there's that epic scene where Aragorn is just kind of sitting there on the porches of Edoras, kind of looking off in the distance, having a little space out. And all of a sudden, he's like, "There's a light. The beacons are lit. Gondor calls for aid." You know, and he's running around, and I mean, I can't tell you how many times in a month I will use that "the beacons are lit" expression in completely non-related situation. You know, somebody gets a sunburn, I'm like, "The beacons are lit. Gondor calls for aid." You know, or is it just crazy stuff? Just because
And
it's so,
Rohan shall answer.
yeah, and Rohan shall answer. I mean, it's just there's
Yeah.
so many cool things that it kind of applies to, but. Earthart's
Yeah.
right. This sweeping score, and I'm gonna stop talking so Pine Leaf can.
All right. Now, one con I have to say for the movies, though, is that Denethor refuses to have the beacons lit.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, really, you're commanding a city, you're under siege, you refuse to call for any help.
Well,
No, we can only take these guys.
the way he describes it, it sounds much more like all hope has gone. And so it sounds like basically he's worried that it would take too long for them to come and aid, and that even if they did get the message in time, they wouldn't come. And so it's more him imposing judgment on them than I think him on himself, which just shows how far he's lost it at this point. So I definitely see that being a con, but I do also think it adds more to his character that's established in the films.
All right, then. Now, what about the game?
Well, first of all, the games spawned the Light the Beacons podcast, so that's a huge pro already.
That's true. That is very true. It's cool in the game that you get to go actually see the beacons
And kill stuff on the
and
beacon.
kill
And
stuff on the
they're
beacons.
fancy in the game. Man,
And
they're
actually,
fancy.
they're it's interesting in the game because they're close enough to a settlement where you can sort of get a sense that it's not like one guy stuck up there all the time. They
Yeah.
probably rotate around in shifts, and
Yeah.
they're close enough to towns that there's some kind of support that they can get as far as food goes. But
Yeah, they're not on the mountaintops, they're just on hills throughout the valley kind of a thing. Which I
Yeah.
think makes much more sense for a messaging
there
system.
kind of aren't really mountains in Gondor necessarily. It's like a mountain range between Gondor and Rohan, but
You could cut out a lot of space if you put on the top of various mountains throughout different parts from Minas Tirith to other parts of Gondor. But instead they
Yeah.
go around hills, which I think makes way more sense from a supply point of view for the people there. One thing that's also cool about the beacons in Lotro is that they're double-decker beacons. You got like the wood pile down below, and then you got another one up above.
Pretty cool.
Well, that just makes sense.
Yeah,
Because how would you see it if you didn't have to climb something?
that's true.
True. Now there is a town in Rohan called Beacon Watch, which I can only imagine must be the end of the beacon network or something like
I think
that.
so.
Yeah,
So
if I remember the quest chain in there, there's basically a guy who looks out this huge glass window at the mountains towards Gondor.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's
that's
his
the
full-time
thing.
job.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's his gig.
yeah, that's the gig
Exactly.
for the thing of Beacon Watch.
Yeah, so I mean that would make sense then if that guy in Rohan, his entire job is to watch for the beacons, and if he sees the beacon lit because that's the end of the network, then he's going to dispatch a writer to Edoras and say, "Yo, man, Gondor needs aid. Let's do something."
Yeah, in
And of course they've
Lotro,
got to.
I
Yeah.
think that it works as Pineleaf described, where the person who sends the message starts from Beacon Watch and heads to the north. In the books, I have no idea how it works because I don't think that it was thought out that far.
Yeah, there
Ah,
wasn't really a lot of detail given in the book.
all right. Any cons about the game version of the beacons?
They spent a lot of money on these beacons. I mean, they are fancy.
Yeah, and the mobs on them spawn really fast.
Well, yeah, there's so many beacons with mobs. I think that that's kind of a negative, but at the same time, I think that they're kind of like fortresses. At least they would seem like strategic points, I think, to an enemy coming into the world, even though that the beacons had already been lit, so it wasn't really an issue. But I think they would at least have the appearance of seeming very strategic points for the enemy. So it makes sense
Well,
that
I
they're kind
mean,
of taken over.
yeah, they are because there's actually several quest chains in the area north of Dol Amroth, which escapes me right now. That you have to go up there and find out what's going on because
Yeah.
the bad guys, and I forgot their names already, are watching
You mean the
the people in
Corsairs?
town. Yeah, the Corsairs are sitting up there just kind of drinking some rum, going, "Oh, look, there's more supplies coming in. Hey, left-eyed Petey, you go ahead and take some boys and steal their supplies. They got another shipment coming in." And they're like, "Why are we always getting attacked by these brigands and nasty Corsairs?" Because the Corsairs are sitting up above the town watching them. So it's like, yeah, of course it's a strategic location.
So I thought that was a nice additional layer, which, goes along with all of the things they've been doing in Gondor, where it just feels really fleshed out. I mean, that's what Lotro does, is it really makes sense of everything that's in the books, and I think they did a good job with the Beacons of Gondor.
All right. Any further comments? We currently have 23 supporters on Patreon. We're getting close to 24 now. And
Yeah?
if you would like to be the lucky second dozen finisher, then you could join this illustrious A raid, making it a full raid, and help to support local players. Simply go to the donations page where you could support the Players Alliance on Patreon. There you'll find rewards, including a mention on the podcast of your choice, or even be a guest host here on an episode of Locho Players News. And how far are we from the next goal?
We're $11 away, Pineleaf. We're super close to a 1-year VIP code giveaway for Lotro. It would be awesome to do it.
All right then. We do not have any iTunes reviews this week, but I am sure Andy would love to have some.
Absolutely, Pineleaf, and thank you for mentioning this week. We haven't mentioned iTunes in a while, so yeah, definitely would love to have a review. It's been several months since we've had one, so would be cool to have one on iTunes.
But we do have a featured comment on A Critter's Journey. A Critter's
From A
Journey
Critter's
left a
Journey.
comment on Locho Players News, episode 136. Don't worry, or do. There are most episodes planned out. Episodes 10 to 15 are being finished as I type. There were some issues with scheduling ahead and changing content in it on a later date. Rescheduling episode 9 hasn't fixed it, so we'll see what happens in episode 10. Busy weekends, anniversary check and run for the 10th episode, side chicken project that doesn't involve chicken side dish, but we're still on track for weekly episodes in the foreseeable future.
Side chicken project has to be my new favorite phrase, I think. That's awesome.
If you would like to email us, you can send it to podcast@lotraplayers.com. And you can also follow us on Twitter, the Players Alliance @PlayersAlly, Lotra Players @LotraPlayers, Andang @PVMP_Andang, Arathert @Arathert, Carvet @CarvetLP, Maven @Token Maven, Pineleaf @Pineleaf Needles, and Terry Adwin @Terry Adwin. The Players Alliance has 5 live shows. Every Monday at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have DDO Players News. Every other Thursday at 9 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have XP Quest. On the last Friday of every month at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have LOTRO Academy After School. Every Saturday at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have LOTRO Players News, and every other Saturday after LOTRO Players News, we have Tales of the Free Folk, though this week's episode is being pushed to next week due to scheduling conflicts. So if you'd like to join us for our live shows, you could go to lotraplayers.com/live. Thank you everyone for listening. This is Pineleaf Needles reminding you to skirmish responsibly.